you know I already won? Don't you know I already won? Don't you know I already won? I already won. I already won.
Don't you know I already won? Don't you know I already won? Don't you know I already won? I already won. I already won.
Oh my gosh, that song puts me in such a mood. I hope you loved the intro just as much as I do. Hello, hello, hello. My name is Loida Love. I have created this new podcast and I wanted to introduce myself first and share a little bit about the Awakened Winners podcast and my vision for it. Like I said, my name is Loida Love. That's what I'm devoted to in the world, is to bringing my best self, love at its highest. And I hope that you can feel that through this video and through the future videos of this podcast. What do I want to share with you that's just important? So one of the things I wanted to share, aside from my name and the podcast name, is my why. And my biggest why is my son, I want to say. You know, aside from my own life and me nurturing my journey, it's my son. My son's life sparked something within me that I hadn't experienced before, or at least I hadn't experienced it for a long time, which was unconditional love. I do want to share my son was born with Down syndrome about 20 years ago. I can't believe I have a young man. Like, how did that happen? And so some people think that when I say he sparked unconditional love, it's because he was born with Down syndrome, but that's not the full why. My journey of unconditional love started before I saw him. When he was in my belly, when he was just as small as a bean. Seeing him on the first ultrasound and crying because I was so absolutely in love. That was my unconditional love. How could I love this deeply? Someone I do not know, someone that's not even fully formed. But with every cell in my body, I love what's growing within me. I absolutely changed my life before I had my son. I stopped smoking cigarettes. I stopped drinking alcohol. My surroundings changed because I was changing. I was being a healthier me. So in essence, my son's life also offered me the opportunity to learn to love myself. And that I thank him for that so much. He's transformed my life in ways I'm so grateful for. Like, my heart is full. I am happy with who I am and where I am. I'm happy with how I love. I love that I call myself Loida Love, that's my devotion to the world. And he was the spark. The blessing of his life was a spark. So then I have my son, and they tell me he's a boy, and he was born with Down syndrome. And for me, that diagnosis didn't mean much to me because I already loved him. And I say this because I know some parents grieve their children when they have them. And it's not because they don't already love them. It's because they receive a shock, and everybody has their own experiences. But my experience was different. I didn't feel grief. I accepted my son since before day one. And when I looked at my son, when I held my son in my arms, what I saw was a whole human. He was perfect, whole, and complete. I wouldn't have changed a thing. I wouldn't change a thing about my son. He is absolute joy. He is brilliance embodied, magnificent. And I get to witness his joy. I get to feel his love, and he gets to feel mine. We light each other up with love and joy. Literally, I have named my son Nicholas King Joy, and I call myself Loida Love. We create music together. We have 2 songs on YouTube. You can look them up if you desire. One is called I Already Won, and the other one is called Down Syndrome, which is a second part to I Already Won. And we have more music coming. Like, I have a song that I've just finished writing, and we're going to be recording it soon. So be on the lookout. I'm so excited for people to get to listen to our music. I also written a book, and I'll share the picture. And if you don't know me and you've never seen my son, this is a picture of my son. He was 16 or 15 in this picture. He's now 19. But my book's name is called The Awakened Winners, and the subtitle is We Already Won. And I wrote this book because a message dropped into my heart that I felt I knew I had to share with the world. Like, it was God planted a seed in my heart, and it was like, okay, well, then I'm writing a book. And it all happened after I had my son, because I got to witness other people's reactions to his diagnosis. I got to hear things like, why do you think this happened? You're such a good person. Or do you think this happened because of you or his father? Or I'm going to pray for him so he can get better. Or even now when he's older, I hear things like, I feel sorry for your son because he's never going to have a normal life. And if you're listening to these comments and feel shocked or like confused at why people would say such things, believe me, I feel the same way. I sometimes wonder, do these people realize that they're speaking to his mother? I'm his mother, and I'm hearing these comments, these comments that are so heartbreaking to me. Right now, it's taking everything for me not to cry. But what I became aware of is that those comments had little to do with my son and everything to do with the person sharing it. I realized that people cannot project perfection if they don't see their own. And that's what inspired me to write a book. The Awakened Winners, We Already Won. Because I started to study the perception of perfection. And I realized that people may perceive somebody without an arm as imperfect. Somebody born with Down syndrome as imperfect. Somebody that doesn't have the perfect smile as imperfect. And I share that because I used to be made fun of when I was a kid because my gums show when I smile. Right? Somebody that doesn't play sports as imperfect. Somebody that doesn't complete college as imperfect. There's so many ways we project imperfection. But that's because we are looking at others from human standards, human made standards, because the whole of who we are is perfect. One with God, one with Source. One of the things that I do want to share is that I realized that if we imagine God lives outside of us, that God's going to come back one day, which is what I grew up hearing, right? Like God's going to come back one day, or God's counting your sins and you have to repent, and a God that for me, it wasn't in alignment with what I believe God is, with the highest love. So if I imagine God's outside of me, I'm going to reach out for God to complete me. But God outside of me is going to take many forms. God may be money. God may be a relationship, love, me winning sports, me achieving things. God's going to take many forms out there if I imagine I'm separate from God. And this awareness came to me after I had an experience through meditation where God spoke to me and said, I live in your heart. This information blew my mind because that's when I became aware. Oh my gosh. Of course, so many people are addicted to many things out there. If most people are taught that God's outside and we reach out for God in so many ways, then of course we're addicted. We never get enough. We're never fulfilled because we are projecting that we're not enough. We are projecting that we're not whole. With God within me, I am a whole human. I'm a whole person. I'm perfection. And I can see the perfection in other people. But other people won't see the same perfection in me unless they're aware too. And so my hope is that if you haven't already started a journey of awareness, of self-love, of seeing the wholeness, the perfection in you, that you look for support on your journey, that you get really curious because you are whole. You're perfection in a body. Your body is the temple that God resides in. So my hope is that through the journey of watching my podcast, you continue to awaken to your beauty, or that somebody's conversation with me sparks such light within you, or something you weren't aware of that shifts the trajectory of your life. My hope is that your heart opens even bigger than it already is, and that your light shines brighter than ever. I really do believe that we are all meant to shine, and that with our own light, we spark the light of others. Others do feel the permission to shine because we do. So I just wanted to jump in and share a little bit about me, about my journey. You're going to hear so much more because these conversations are going to be just that, conversations. I was going to call them interviews, but they're not interviews. They're conversations between two people. Sometimes I'm going to have more than two people on at a time, and we'll have conversations that nourish the heart. Every conversation is going to have an intention. So you'll leave with something or many things from every conversation. I am so excited about this podcast. I am thrilled about the opportunity to share my heart in deeper ways, to help people see the beauty, the magnificence in themselves, so that together we can create a better life for ourselves and a better world for each other. We can do better and we can be better. Even if all is good, it can always get better. And from a whole, full heart, we offer from overflow. From overflow. That's why, to me, self-love is the most important thing. And that, in fact, is what God said to me too. Love yourself more than anything and everything. And I realized that when I love me, I love God too, because I'm not separate. So while I'm loving me, I know I'm loving God, and God is loving me. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful journey. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for taking the time to listen to a bit of my story. If you'd like to check out my songs, you can find them on YouTube. I Already Won and Down Syndrome, and there's more to come. So you can subscribe to the Awakened Winners to be updated on the music that I'll be sharing. This is the Awakened Winners podcast, which is another YouTube channel. This will only be the podcast conversations that I'll have on here. I'm so happy. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for being here.